Putting Reading First in Maine, Segment 12, Fluency Instructional Strategy.
Still going the slightest bit too fast.
What happens when you go that fast?
Yeah.
What happens when you read too fast?
You can't get as much fluency as you can in that.
Fluency is one of the 5 essential elements of effective reading instruction. Fluency is the ability to read words quickly with accuracy and expression.
Terrible class. Terrible tiger, go away. Terrible tiger, please don't stay.
A fluent reader recognizes words automatically and accurately, decodes and comprehends simultaneously, and reads aloud effortlessly and with expression.
Little pig, let me come in.
Factors that inhibit fluency include unfamiliarity with text, limited vocabulary, difficulty with syntax, and difficulty decoding words. Direct instruction in reading fluency does help young children become more fluent readers. Fluency instruction should begin when students can read connected text with a word accuracy rate of 90% or better.
So we made that sound really, really interesting.
It is critical not to emphasize students' rate of reading too soon, as this emphasis can have a detrimental effect on students' word accuracy and comprehension. By focusing on reading rate too soon, students may abandon their attention to other reading strategies in favor of speed. Students need to feel confident about applying strategies to process text while using graphophonic, semantic, and syntactic cues.
Let's go back and try that again. This time I want you to be my echo. I'll read and I'll tell you.
Kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers can focus students' attention on reading fluency through a variety of whole and small group activities.
How do you think she was feeling?
Children typically begin to develop independent reading fluency in the middle of 1st grade and continue through 2nd and 3rd grade. Proficient readers recognize the vast majority of words in text quickly, allowing them to focus on the meaning of the text. Since approximately 300 words account for 65% of the words in texts, rapid recognition of these words during the primary grades forms the foundation of fluent reading. In order to build fluency, students need to practice. Currently, research has not proven that independent, silent reading improves reading fluency or reading achievement. However, research does show that 2 forms of practice have shown evidence of improved fluency: repeated oral reading and guided repeated oral reading. Repeated oral reading can be an individual or group activity. If done as a group activity, the students first read a text with a fluent reader and then reread the text alone until they can read it more accurately, automatically, and expressively. Repeated oral reading develops confidence, speed, and word prediction ability. The passage should be 50 to 200 words long, and the student should begin with a relatively easy passage and progress to more difficult ones. The goal of repeated oral readings is for students to improve the number of words they read correctly in 1 minute. Students can graph their performance on repeated oral readings to monitor their growth. One type of repeated oral reading which has not been found to be very effective is round-robin reading. In round-robin reading, students read a passage of text once, and then other students within a small group read the subsequent passages of the text. The structure of round-robin reading does not allow students to reread the passage more than once. They also are not able to apply guidance from the teacher on their reading fluency. In a typical guided repeated oral reading lesson, the teacher connects the passage to readers' background knowledge and highlights important vocabulary. Next, the teacher models fluent reading by reading the story or passage out loud as students follow along. Then, students read passages aloud with guidance and feedback. Finally, the teacher leads a discussion about the passage to increase the students' comprehension.
Dave?
A comma.
A comma. Yeah.
Examples of guided repeated oral reading include choral reading, echo reading, reader's theater, and partner reading. In choral reading, students read along with a teacher as a group. Here are some examples of what that might look like at the kindergarten and 1st grade levels.
She put them in the pocket of her apron. When she got home, she asked her friends, "Who
will plant these grains of wheat.
In a kindergarten classroom, the teacher leads students in a shared reading of a familiar big book and expects students to chime in on the repetitive phrases. Notice how the teacher has covered these phrases with highlighting tape so that kindergartners can begin to recognize these phrases in print.
I
Said the goose, not I, said the cat, not I, said the dog.
Reading repetitive phrases in a familiar book like The Little Red Hen helps students practice reading in phrases with expression.
carefully between each.
Poem is
A kindergarten class rereads familiar chart poems to practice reading together with appropriate speed, phrasing, and expression.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. I'm going to the moon. If you want to take a trip,
Do you guys remember what choral reading is? What's choral reading?
We read together.
We're going to read together, okay? We're all going to read together, so let's get our really good reading voices ready.
In a first grade classroom, students participate in choral reading using a chart poem which has been created from the text of a familiar story.
Horse stole the cookies from the cookie jar.
Notice how the teacher has created this chart of the text using sticky notes with the names and pictures of the characters. These sticky notes can easily be removed as the students read the different verses within the text.
Yes, you.
In echo reading, the teacher reads a piece of text and provides a model for students of what fluent reading should sound like. The students then echo the reading by imitating the fluent model of the teacher. In this first example, a first grade teacher models fluent reading with a poem and then invites the students to participate in an echo reading of the poem.
We're going to do an echo poem first. Remember, when we do our echo poem, that you will be my echo. I'll read the whole poem first, and then we're going to do our echo reading together. Brr, brr, polar bear, living on the ice. Your turn.
Bird, bird, polar bear, living on the ice.
The lesson concludes with the students participating in a choral reading of the poem.
Keeps you warm and nice.
The cookie jar.
The cookie jar.
Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar?
Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar?
This second example of echo reading illustrates how the same text which you saw earlier as an example of choral reading can be used for echo reading. In Reader's Theater, students repeatedly reread a variety of texts and then perform for classmates or a larger audience. The following are examples of how, depending on the grade level and the needs of the students, Reader's Theater can be implemented differently. In a kindergarten classroom, one teacher directs a small group Reader's Theater using a picture book which these young students enjoy. The teacher serves as the narrator, and the students share simple phrases from the text with prompts from the teacher.
I think she's gone hunting.
Said Sarah, to get us our food.
To get us our food.
Said Percy.
I want my mommy.
Said Bill.
Let me come in.
In a first grade classroom, a teacher uses a fairy tale as the basis for a script.
And I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. Huff, puff, huff, puff.
And he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew the house in.
In another first grade classroom, the students engage in Reader's Theater using the same text which was used for the choral reading and echo reading lessons.
And you each have your part, and I want to hear some really fluent and expressive reading as we do this, okay?
Dog stole the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? Yes, you. Couldn't be. Then who?
In second grade, in one classroom, teachers use the theme the students are currently studying to develop a script.
Where the rivers slurp, slurp, we find water, slurp, slurp, we find minerals, slurp, slurp, we take them in, slurp, slurp. Where the flowers bloom, bloom, we have the seeds, bloom, bloom, to make more plants, bloom, bloom, just like us, bloom, bloom. The olden children had been on their own for a few days. They spent the night in the woods on beds made of pine needles.
In another classroom, the teacher directs student analysis and shared constructive criticism with use of videotape.
Okay, today, boys and girls, our readers are going to read a chapter out of the Boxcar Children's book for their...
Now's the time for you guys to give us some comments and constructive criticism. Remember what we're working on. We're working on reading fluently. That means with expression and at the right speed and loud enough so you can hear it there. Matthew, what did you notice?
I think I need to follow the punctuations a little more.
You need to follow the punctuation too.
And finally, in third grade, a teacher uses a class-created script of an adapted fairy tale.
Please tell them, squeak, squeak, squeak. I'm the big bad mouse. Little wolf, let me come in. No, no, no. By the hair on our chins, we will not let you in. Our reader's theater is called The Fat Cat.
Another teacher uses a script created by an individual student.
I'm the cat, and my name's Sammy Siamese, but my real name is Coley.
A third grade class also participates in Reader's Theater based on the tall tale of Davy Crockett.
Big sack of rattlesnakes with her. Wasn't she scared of snakes? Nope. She wasn't scared of anything. She was very brave, and she's my wife. Your wife?
In partner reading, paired students take turns reading aloud to each other. In this first grade classroom, after one student reads, the other student gives feedback about the fluency of the reading using a fluency feedback form.
His jaws. Then I see him stretch his claws.
Good job. So, Haley, you're going to think about how her reading sounded, and what do you think about the speed of her reading? Do you think too slow, just right, or too fast, do you think, today?
Just right.
Okay, so you would think just right?
The teacher coaches the students to make the feedback as specific as possible.
And how about the expression? Did she use feeling or no feeling?
Feeling.
She did use some feeling, didn't she? Okay.
The students then switch roles.
Think about how your voice might sound as you're reading this in a rather scared way, okay?
There's a terrible tiger under my bed. I can see his tail.
All right, boys and girls, the other day we made a brainstorming chart of what good fluency sounds like. And here we have our list. Let's take
Another example in a third grade classroom shows a lesson on how to use a fluency checklist with partner reading. The lesson begins with a rereading and review of the fluency checklist, which the class had created the previous day.
On your clipboards, you have a little checklist that has all the same information here, except on the side it has a little box. And there are two columns. You have one that says first read and one that says second read.
The teacher then invites the students to practice using this checklist to assess her reading fluency as she reads a poem.
My cat ate my homework. She really did. Let me explain.
She incorporates both fluent and non-fluent examples into her reading to encourage the students to give specific feedback using the checklist.
It grew tiny green leaves.
Students then sit knee to knee with a partner. One student reads the poem,
Stop!
and the other gives feedback on the reading fluency using the checklist.
Little plant. And that is how my cat ate my homework. Very good. Very good. Just stop the punctuation. You read at a good volume for me. You read clear. You read at just the right speed.
Considering the feedback from the partner, the student then rereads the poem while the partner fills in the second column of the checklist. Other strategies that promote reading fluency include modeling. The teacher models attention to punctuation and how to vary intonation while the students reread chart poems.
That hungry little deer, looking for his lunch, ate that snowman's carrot nose. Crunch, crunch, crunch.
Cite vocabulary practice using word cards to build automaticity with high-frequency words.
So. See. Mine.
Explicit instruction in phrasing, expression, and attention to punctuation.
What does an exclamation mark tell us to do when we're reading? Does it tell us to make it exciting?
This lesson demonstrates how explicit instruction helps students recognize how to respond to different types of punctuation.
Snap!
When children are learning to read, they initially devote more time to decoding unfamiliar words. By using proven instructional approaches like repeated oral reading and guided repeated oral reading, children have the opportunity to effectively practice becoming more fluent and subsequently develop their ability to comprehend and decode the text simultaneously while reading smoothly and effortlessly.